Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. I'm your host, Dawn Block. I'm a residential realtor with Century 21 Circle, and I am so happy to be here. I also want to let you know that I do service when I with my real estate business, I do service Schaumburg, Elk Grove Village, the northwest suburbs, and beyond. So if you're needing any assistance, please don't hesitate to give me a call. But why do I do this? You're probably wondering, why is this lady on live talking about businesses and talking to business owners? Well, I feel that it's really important to support our local business. What is a better way to get to know each business owner? To get to know what they did before they are doing what they're doing now, just kind of get to know them as a person, because I think behind every business there is a person that has a really interesting life. So we're going to get to know my special guest in a moment. What I do want is I want interaction. If you're seeing this, you could be seeing this on Facebook. You could be seeing this on LinkedIn, YouTube. I have it on X. I'm also on all my Facebook pages. So you could see the re-recording of this if you come in during the middle or the end and you want to see this whole interview in its entirety. You could go back to Dawn Block Realtor or my LinkedIn page, Dawn Block, and see this whole interview in its entirety. I want to also make sure that everybody knows that I want interaction. So if you're out there, give me some comments, say hello, let me know that you're there and you're seeing this. It's really important to me. And be sure to ask any questions to my special guest. And what I would like to do now is I would love to introduce my expert on the block. I have Ron Roberti. He is with Resource Commercial Advisors. Ron, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
If you wouldn't mind just letting people know what your contact information is, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. My phone number is 847-651-0656. And my email is ron@resourcecommercial.net. Text, phone, email, whatever works.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Before we get into some of our questions, I just want to kind of say, Sid is saying hello. So thanks, Sid, for joining in on our show and saying
Hey,
hello. Sid. He also says, good to see you both. And it's good to see you too, Sid. So thanks for coming in on the show. So Ron, if you wouldn't mind, there is a past. There's always a past. And before you were a real estate broker, what were you doing? What did you do before you were doing your commercial real estate?
Sure. Thank you. Well, this is actually my third career. As my wife tells me, I tend to be a little bit restless. But from the time I was in a junior in high school through in my early 40s, I was in the food service industry. Started as a washing dishes in the back with a pitcher of beer on top of the dishwashing machine, and advanced my career to where my last item was working as maitre d' and food and beverage manager for the Meadow Club in Rolling Meadows. And when I started hitting my 40th birthday, I realized it was a young man's game. And I felt like I was pretty good at sales, because really that's what food service is. It's all, and hospitality is. It's all sales. I was able to, I got a job in automobile sales. And I did that for 5 years. I was a top salesman for 5 years for Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge. And then I became graduated to a finance manager, and I did that for 3 years. And about that time, this was probably about 2002, I was sitting with my banker and telling him I was thinking about doing some investment in real estate. He goes, well, why don't you go and get your license? You'll know the vernacular, and you'll put yourself on solid ground. And I did, and I really enjoyed the class. And I was talking to other residential brokers, and it was a really great time for the market. And I said, "Ah, what the heck? I'm young," and so jumped into career number three.
Wow, wow. Yes, the real estate, because I started in real estate in 1987, and that was the same thing. My dad told me the same thing. What do you always get into the real estate business? So yes, so it was a great time at that time. So what I was, we've got a couple people coming in here. We've got Chris Black saying hello, everyone. I just love this interaction. Susie Whipple says, always great to meet Dawn's guest. And it's a great story. So thank you so much, Susie, for joining us on this show. I'd like to ask you, so why did you transition from residential real estate, because that's what you're doing first, to getting into commercial real estate?
Well, when the proverbial crap hit the fan in 2008, 2009, 2010, I had a lot of time and money and energy invested in real estate. I really wanted to stay in the business. I like being my own boss. I love the flexibility of my schedule and things like that. But honestly, a lot of the brokers I knew started doing short sales and foreclosures.
Yes.
And honestly, I didn't have the heart for it. I just was so uncomfortable sitting there telling people what was going to happen if they lost their home, and that whole process. I just didn't have the heart for it. And I was in a networking group at the time, and one of the gentlemen in my networking group was a dentist who had
Oh,
built an office, built a building in Hawthorne Woods, but was having trouble leasing out the other half of the building. So he said, "Hey, I'll give you a shot. Why don't you see if you can lease it out for me?" I was able to do that. Then the owner who developed the office park said, "Oh, I got a building that's got some vacancies," and I leased up his. And I got another one of my clients to build another building in the park, and I leased out that one. So I was fortunate. I kind of made my way and learned along the way at a little small office park in Hawthorne Woods, Illinois.
wow, wow. So are there any differences between doing residential and commercial real estate?
Well, the one that I really like is that I don't work weekends and I don't work at night.
Yeah,
So
that.
I'm a little bit more of a master of my universe than I was as a residential broker. But I would say that the clearest difference is that in commercial real estate, it's all about the business aspect.
Okay.
It's very seldom gets emotional. When you put the numbers on a spreadsheet, do they work? Do they match the short and long range goals of not only yourself as a person, but your business, your family, your business partners, so on and so forth. So I like that part, that we're not worried about carpet color and pink walls and and a broken furnace. We're taking it a step higher.
Yeah, selling when you do residential, it can become a little bit more emotional.
Mhm.
Much more emotional. So, but a couple people, I just wanted to kind of a couple of people coming on saying hello.
Oh,
Roger
wow.
Greif
Hey, Roger.
says, "Hey Ron." So that's great. Thank you, Roger, for joining us on this episode. I really do appreciate it. So I wanted to ask you, Ron, um, do you specialize in a certain type of commercial property? I mean, can you kind of can break that down for us? Like,
Sure.
are there different types of commercial real estate that you can go into, and what type do you do?
Yeah, there are. So there's really what we refer to as kind of asset classes. So there's usually, general office,
Mm-hmm.
there's industrial, there's retail, there's restaurants, there's land, and then there's medical. I would say those are the big ones. When I first started, I was a generalist. I threw the big net out, whatever, big or small, whatever fish swam into the net. That's what I worked on. And when I joined Resource Commercial Advisors, Mark, my managing broker and owner, was already doing a lot of work in the medical field. He goes, "Ron, you really ought to think about uh, transitioning and getting us a specialty." And it was the best thing I did. So starting about 2 years ago, I started moving most of my business into the dental and medical arena. Although I will still do some of the other asset classes, my primary, I would say 65 to 70% of the work I do now is in working with doctors and dentists and chiropractors and massage therapists and psychiatric therapists, things like that.
Oh, wow. Wow. So I have here, just before I ask my next question, I have Agnes here. It says, hello from More Cleaners Commercial and Residential Cleaning. So is this somebody that you know? So, and we have Raghu Sanduro. Hello, Ron and Don. You guys look great. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Raghu.
Thank you. So, can you tell us a little bit about what is the process look like when you're working with, when you're working in a commercial real estate aspect? So what does that process look like? I mean, I have a process when I work like with my home buyers and home sellers. What does it look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. What knowledge is king, right? In both what you do and what I do. So I spend a lot of time asking questions. I've learned as I've gotten a little bit older, do less talking and do more listening. And it's so there's so many different aspects in a commercial deal that you need to be aware of. And a lot of them, unless someone's been through this multiple times, are foreign to people. So I literally have a process form. I'll literally send them a form. Okay, first thing you and I do, we sit down and we have a 30-minute, face-to-face meeting. Then I go home. I take the information you gave me. I search for properties. I go through the properties. I send you the best ones, all the way down to either a purchase sale agreement is signed or a lease is signed. So, and the clients like that because it gives them it's a kind of a little bit of a roadmap.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? And I don't think we talked about this, but is showing a property, a commercial property, a little bit different, or is it the same as showing like a single family home versus a commercial property? Can you kind of give us a little insight on that?
Well, probably the biggest difference is that with seldom exceptions is we don't have lock boxes and we don't have a lock box or a key system. Now, I do have lock boxes on a few of my properties, but for the most part, I go to 95% of all my showings personally.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But your hours are still, I mean, you set your hours Monday through Friday, right? Do you ever work on the weekends?
I will on occasion work on a Saturday, pretty much in the morning, and I usually show up in jeans and kind of casual and just, kind of on borrowed time. But the grayer you get, the more you earn that. So I'm not bashful about that.
Well, I'll keep coloring my hair and get rid of those grays now. So I have Susie here. She has a question. She goes, who are good power partners for you, Ron? Also, do you focus on the suburbs or do you include Chicago?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. So good power partners for me are typically bankers, CPAs, financial advisors, and believe it or not, other brokers. Because I don't look at other brokers as competition. I look at them as collaborators. I do majority of my work in the suburbs. I do some work in the city, but working in the city is really a different animal. It takes a different skill set really to work in the city because you have aldermen and you have the politics and whatnot that are involved in that when you go to work in a particular ward. But I also work nationwide. Right now, I'm working on deals in Wausau, Indiana.
Wow.
I'm working on one in Pittsburgh. I'm working on one in Spokane, and so on and so forth. So we develop cooperating broker program where we work with other brokers. Allows us to work anywhere in the country.
Oh, really? So you don't have to be licensed in one state versus another?
No, so long as the broker on the other end is licensed and we partner with them. So they're kind of our boots on the ground. And then we manage the client relationship.
All right. Well, Susie says, good to know. And we have Christine that is saying hi. So hi, Christine. Thank you for joining us. Great. So I guess I want to ask you this. As a residential realtor, I am able to use the multiple listing service to search for homes for my buyers, my home buyers. I could put the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the areas, and I can get a list of properties. When you're doing commercial, do you have something like a multiple listing service where you search for your properties?
We do. The primary one that we use is called CoStar. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that is a subscription service only. So you have to pay a monthly fee in order to have access to that service. If you pay an additional monthly fee, which I do, then you get on LoopNet as well. And then we have what we refer to as our silver listings. So our listings kind of rise to the top when someone's doing
Oh,
the searching. In addition to that, we do use another service called Crexy. They're kind of a smaller player, but growing. And then two others where when we put something on CoStar, it shows up on City Feet and it shows up on Showcase, or two of the other. So those are the five that we use, but primarily CoStar.
okay. So you have five places that you could look. So is that kind of was that kind of like if I were to, for example, I have the multiple listing service, and then I have outside websites like realtor.com, there's
Yeah.
homes.com.
So your City Feet and your Showcase, your LoopNet would be like those kind of
Those kind of sites.
comparable to what you have. Yeah.
And so would like the normal public be able to go on there and search if they went to LoopNet?
They can go to City Feet. They can go to Showcase. They can go to LoopNet, but they have to keep in mind that not everything that's on CoStar is on LoopNet.
Okay.
Only those of us who pay the extra fee get our listings on both.
Oh, okay. All right. So I was going to ask you, I think we kind of know the MLS. I'm jumping around here. Do you need extra real estate classes to do commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate is literally the school of hard knocks. I take the exact same test every 2 years that you probably do. We just completed that not long ago. And the frustrating thing for me, and why I find it in general pretty boring to go through the process, is because there's very few questions on there that relate directly to what I do. Of course, understanding agency and ethics and all those things are the same, but there's really very few questions on that test that really apply directly to commercial. So it's really just a matter, and I've been extremely fortunate. My first full-time job in commercial real estate, I had an amazing mentor, and at my firm now with Mark Brodson, he's just an amazing mentor. I wouldn't have been able to do what I do without the guidance of those two gentlemen. But like I said, there's no real extra training classes. It's kind of the school of hard knocks.
Baptism by fire, just kind of go in and do it then, right?
Yeah. I used to, when I first started, I literally had a glossary on my laptop on my homepage of commercial real estate firms.
Okay, so people that you could go to.
I didn't know what a death and disability clause was, or an associate clause, or a LOI, or a request for proposal. I do now, thank goodness. But
I don't know what that is.
That's why you need a commercial real estate broker on your team.
Exactly. So, what I was going to ask you, I get involved in a question, and then you kind of, I guess it's my age or something. I'm having a little bit of Alzheimer's here. So we have an agreement that we sign. So and especially now with the new realm of residential real estate, when we're working with the listing agent or a seller, we have an agreement that spells out everything that we're going to be doing for them. And now, when we work with a buyer, we're going to be having to do the same thing. There will be another an agreement that we have to sign with them. In commercial real estate, is there the same thing? I mean, do you have a written agreement signed by signed by, you and them to show that you have
Sure.
a partnership?
So when we're working with a landlord or a seller, of course, the exclusive listing agreement, which it serves as your agency declaration and your understanding of representation. But if we're working with a buyer or a tenant, we do send them a representation agreement.
Okay, all right. Now, Chris Block has a question, and he says, are there any changes on the horizon for you and the way you do your business?
The only thing probably the biggest change I think that we're really going to see is we're going to see how AI and the just nonstop continuing expansion of social media affects our business. I read a really good quote not that long ago, and it said, "You're not going to attract today's clients with yesterday's technology." And
That's true.
that's really hard for me. I'm going to be 69 next week, and I'm pretty set in my ways, but I'm going to kind of kicking and screaming a little bit in
Yeah,
some of
good for
these
you.
yeah.
And happy birthday early.
Thank you.
So I always like to put out a little tidbit, and I did put one out there, and I'd like to get your outlook on this. So why I put it out there, we were saying, why do you need a professional commercial broker on your team? Why, can you answer that for us?
Sure. So when someone signs, give you an example. When someone signs a lease, like I work a lot with dentists and doctors. Once they're somewhere, they want to stay there a long time. Okay. So typically they will sign a 10-year lease. So think about that. That lease can be worth millions and millions of dollars. And if you do not understand what's in that lease, if you don't understand how to put a thoughtful letter of intent together, which kind of lays out the basic parameters of a deal, you could literally cost that doctor, his family, his business a lot of money and a lot of aggravation down the line. Just like you go to your attorney for legal advice, right? You go to your doctor, if you're not feeling well,
Exactly.
right? You go to your dentist when you have a toothache. Um, get yourself a commercial real estate broker as part of your team. Keep in mind too, is that at least that things haven't changed yet from our standpoint, but we get paid by the landlord or by the seller. So for a
Mhm.
buyer or tenant to work with us, uh, it's it's really beneficial to have someone on your team. The seller and the landlord, they have their best interest in mind. You need to make sure you have someone who has your best interest in mind.
And I'll be quite honest with you. I'm in residential real estate. I would not want to even try to figure out what is going on in the commercial real estate world. I mean, to even like with all that, you just got done listing a whole bunch of terms that I would not have any idea what they are. And like you had said, you made a great point. Why do you want to jeopardize your client's interests? They should be your first person. I mean, for me to try to do something that I know absolutely nothing about wouldn't be taking my clients in their best interest. So
Well, yeah, and the thing is that you have a fiduciary responsibility to do what's best.
yes,
I just really encourage residential, realtors to talk to your managing broker before you take on something like that. And you're much better off to refer it out, get a referral fee, and let the experts, on the other side, handle that, and know that your client's going to be well taken care of. Your client will thank you later.
oh,
Because
most definitely.
you could put one wrong sentence or word something wrong in a lease or a purchase sale agreement, or not catch something. It's the same thing why we tell people use a commercial real estate attorney as well,
That's a good point. Yes,
because they understand, because we don't use the standard forms like you do with the MLS.
right.
Each one of our leases and each one of our purchase sale agreements are typically custom to that particular transaction.
And that's true. Even like you had mentioned about the attorneys, I'm not going to want to have uh, somebody who's like they court attorney doing real estate sales, or I want somebody who is in the residential real estate
Right.
law, that they know it. I'm not going to want to get somebody who doesn't do anything in that scope. So I mean, that's a great point. So I have a couple other here. Let me just jump in there. Oh, Janet Zajac is listening. That's my mom. I'm just letting you know, that's my mom listening. She will
Hi,
let
Janet.
me know. Thank you for joining us. So, but I think, let me check and see if there's any. Is there any last things that you would like to say, Ron?
There's people, you read, if you listen, I always say if you listen to the news, you won't get out of bed in the morning. Okay. And we hear that a lot. People come up to me, man, I heard the commercial real estate business is really, really tough right now. Well, it's not easy. Every deal that I've done in the last year has taken almost twice the amount of work and brain power and aggravation than they used to, but we're getting deals done. And one of the things I really like about the medical and the dental space is that no matter what's going on in the economy, people don't give up those services. You need
Need
those,
it.
those services. So it's somewhat protected asset class. Even just today, I posted something on LinkedIn about the number of offices that are there is an uptick in interest in office, and offices struggled mightily. There's a big push of now offices being converted to industrial.
Oh,
So
wow.
right? I mean, people pivot, right? You could sit home and doom and gloom and, about things, but, you got to get up every morning, put your shoes on and get out there and, hit during COVID and all of that. My wife said, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you get up every morning, you still put a suit on and you still go out and failure is not an option.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So,
I mean, change is not a bad thing. I mean, you
right.
just, like you said, you have to learn to pivot, when things come. I mean, how many times I've been in many different markets, and like you had mentioned, you were when the market went down, there were a lot of short sales and foreclosures. And if I did not learn to do that, I wouldn't be in business right now. So you just have to make those shifts, and it happens. But we get through it, don't we? I mean, like you said,
Yep.
you get up the next day, you get yourself dressed, no matter what happens, you get out there and you just start moving. So
Mhm.
it's what we do.
Yep.
But I do want to thank you so much for being on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block, Ron. I mean, you've been insightful. I think it's been a great presentation that you've given. And if anybody is looking to for a commercial realtor, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. My phone number is 847-651-0656. And my email is ron@resourcecommercial.net.
So I'd like to thank everybody who has joined us on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. I enjoy doing this, and it's because of everybody that comes to watch me do this that I enjoy it and have so much fun. So thank you, everybody who has joined us. Ron, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block.
Well,
And
Dawn, it's been a real pleasure. I want to thank you. I want to thank those who checked in and had questions and whatnot. Really, really do appreciate it. And if I can ever be of service to anyone, don't hesitate to reach out.
awesome. And we've got one last thank you to you, Ron. Agnes has said thank
Thank
you.
you.
So,
I
and,
appreciate it.
and again, I want to thank everybody for joining me on this episode. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to give Ron a call. His information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And until we meet again, it is going to be in June. We have our special guest, so be on the lookout for that. I want to wish everybody a great evening, and thanks again for joining this show. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.